I'm such a nerd. I've even got a grip trainer in my hands because you know what? Your listeners, I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 listeners, they don't think this, mind you, but their grip sucks. I'm just being candid. So when people come to a golf school, I look at the way they hold the golf club, and that's the only thing you have to control and provide the rhythm and timing and momentum and that yet they bring up a poor golf grip. And many times it's from somebody who's played golf for 30, 40 years, and then they want to get better, but they don't hold the club very well, and it's tough to transmit that rhythm and energy out to the end with the face on it that makes the ball do what you want it to do. So,
All right, Adam, you good?
I'm good. Let's do it.
Ready to learn a little something?
Absolutely.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Tricks, you know what I'm talking about? That lettuce, that lettuce. Gotta get it. Gotta get it. That lettuce, that lettuce, focused all on the check. Yeah, all I want is lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce.
Let us heads, we are back with another edition of Please Let Us Golf, the podcast tonight. You got Goldie, you got Adam, and a very special guest coming up in just a minute. But Adam, how are we doing tonight? Let's do a quick check-in.
Doing good, man. Coming off the baseball field tonight, had a big W for the Pirates. So, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to be back.
These kids keeping you on the baseball field, man, keeping you up late at night, getting on the pod. But the W, we like a W. Who am I to judge? You're a baseball guy at heart. I'm a golfer. That's just what I want to do. But I'm fired up too, mainly for our guests, but selfishly also hopping on a plane tomorrow night. Heading out to Vegas. Mr. Golfberg isn't with us tonight, but if you've been listening to the pod, we're cousins. Our dads live in Vegas, playing Wolf Creek, doing a little C-suite private club golf at the dad's golf course. So excited, and I'm even extra excited because our guest tonight, he might be able to give me a couple tips just to give me that leg up to make sure it's no competition out there. So Adam, what if I told you we're bringing on someone? He's one of the elite minds in the world of golf, and I don't mean to say that. That's not hyperbolic speak. Truly, a top 10 instructor in the United States, number one in the golf powerhouse of Arizona, a guy who invented the Tour Striker smart ball. Adam, I think you got a smart ball with you tonight. Everyone loves the smart ball. And he also happens to run one of the most successful golf academies in the world out the Raven Golf Club in Phoenix, Arizona. Happens to be a hell of a golfer himself. So I want to dive into that because I think I heard a little birdie. I might have done some Instagram stalking. Might have played Pine Valley here recently. So I want to know a little bit about that. And for some reason with all that, he's got time to come chum it up with us tonight. So let us heads, please welcome Mr. Martin Chuck to the podcast. Martin, how are we doing this evening?
let us heads. It is great to be with you, Goldie and Adam. It's a pleasure. Look at us. We all look like Princess Leia. It's fantastic.
Yeah. we got our big ears on, so we're ready to go.
Hot cross buns on there. Yep.
I do appreciate it. I hope the intro. I don't try to just do a fluff piece, but it really is. Like when you get a little anxiety when the guests are coming on because you're trying to decide. You'll learn. I can't shut the hell up half the time, anyways. But how much do you need to drive? How prepared do you need to be? But you have such a diversity of background, and I'm eager to jump into it. We got some listener submitted questions, and we're golf nerds at heart. Adam's our historian. He's the real sicko. But before we get into the dense stuff, I got a little icebreaker for you.
Sure.
So we teed you up. You're a top 10 instructor in the U.S., right? You came in you're 7th in the Golf Digest ranking. So I got to ask, what are we doing anything to crack this top 5? Is there anything we got to do some thinking outside of the box? Who do we have up there? I pulled it up. We got Mark Blackburn, Sean Foley. What are we working on right now?
Both those guys are on their way out.
I don't think so.
I don't think they are.
Honestly, like when the list came out and I got bumped into the top 10, a friend of mine called me all like super excited about it. And, I'm honored. What can I tell you? I'm not out there teaching tour players every week. I have zero interest in doing that. None. God bless those guys that travel around each week and chew their fingernails, sweating that their players play well. They're typically lovely guys that are trying to keep a family organized and a little bit of a club job organized, and then they sneak away to help their tour players. And I don't know how they do it all, to be honest with you. My my blessing was just golf camps and the internet, so I did a lot of digital videos instruction to try to get out to as many golfers as I can. I'm such a nerd. I've even got a grip trainer in my hands because you know what? Your listeners, I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 listeners, they don't think this, mind you, but their grip sucks. I'm just being candid. So when people come to a golf school, I look at the way they hold the golf club, and that's the only thing you have to control and provide the rhythm and timing and momentum, and and that yet they bring up a poor golf grip. And many times it's from somebody who's played golf for 30, 40 years, and then they want to get better, but they don't hold the club very well, and it's tough to transmit that rhythm and energy up to the end with the face on it that makes the ball do what you want it to do. So anyway, I'm thrilled to do what I do, and I'm honored to be in that list. So.
I think Scotty Scheffler still uses like one of those. So I mean, if it's good for him, then I probably say it's good for just about anyone.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, it's awesome to see. You know who else? Matt Fitzpatrick does it as well. He's got a driver shaft, and he'll pop it into his driver, and he's a big smart ball user, by the way. So thanks for the plug on the smart ball. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
But no, to see Scotty Scheffler put his hand, I think it's on a 6-iron, 5-iron, and he regularly hits a few shots just to make sure that think about a golf club. You got this club head at the end of a stick, and the weight is, the faster you move it, the more it torques, the more you feel it against your hands. So it's this neat game where, the harder you swing, the more force you provide, and the more torque you get in your hands. And you kind of got to know where that is. You really do. And that's why having a functional grip is a big deal. And kind of knowing where that face is, even when you're not looking at it, it's up there back behind you. Do you kind of have a sense where the weight is, where the face is, and how that face is going to work its way down and out in front of you to, hopefully touch the ball in the grass if the ball's on the ground, or, nice and level, or a little bit up when it's on a tee, or, fairly level when you're hitting a 3-wood. So yeah, that's it's neat to see those guys use training aids, because a lot of golfers, they're like, they don't want to be seen dead on a range. They don't want to attract attention. A bad golfer who has a poor swing wants to hit balls and not be seen. They want to hide out there, so they attract attention by using a training aid. Somebody might say, "Hey, buddy, what's that? That's not helping you." That's the last thing they want to hear, right? In the meantime, I'd be like, "Hey,
I feel
shut the hell
seen.
up,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
very
so-
seen right now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So it's funny. I probably could just divert any plan that I had and do the next hour just on grip and talk about a handful of training aids. But I want to say I wasn't going to jump straight into training aids, but so I've had this interesting history with them. Is like there's some that I find endless utility in,
Mhm.
some that I kind of roll my eyes on, but I do wonder, is there any risk in some of these training aids that might be overly complex if someone's using them without a watchful eye like yourself to give them
Mhm.
the initial kind of instruction of what the feedback they're really looking for? Because I see some guys out there, and it seems like the simplest ones make the most sense. Like maybe that's why the smart ball is as popular it is. You really see a lot of good golfers using the smart ball.
Yeah.
I've talked about the divot board. I did a demo thing with my 5-year-old. Just as like it's a non-technical feedback device where you can kind of feel your way into it, where it doesn't seem very risky if you don't have somebody looking at what you're doing. Could be dead wrong in that, but
No,
yeah,
you're right.
where are we at on that? Yeah, where are we at though? Because some of these seem like I'm not gonna say anything negative about anybody. There's one I was demoing out recently, and I was like, whoa, this is giving you some like go do this kind of feedback. And I'm not sure, unless you really knew the other 500 things going on in your swing, if you can make a general declaration of this is what this golfer needs to be working on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the smart ball has been around for, man, maybe 10 years now. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically a balloon of air with a lanyard on it. And it's the most knocked off training aid ever, which is, I guess a compliment to some degree. But what we've done now is that if you do take a training aid, like here's the reality, big difference from feel and real. Okay, and people honestly, they have no. Some people are amazing at having awareness of their body. Most aren't. Golf's this crazy game where Ideally, you would learn it as a child. You would learn it in a playful environment among peers, goofing off, seeing everybody kind of the tide rising with everybody. Maybe there'd be like one, person who's 2 years old or a little bit better that you looked up to that hit it a little farther and had a bit more skills that you could copy. And then you had a watchful teacher who, bumped you back into the lane a little bit and kind of give you some basics. And you know what that was? That's most of the best players in the world. That was me. Not that I was one of the best players in the world, but I was a decent golfer. Now, but if you don't have that and you're an adult, okay? Now, what's happened when you're an adult? And I don't mean to steal your show, but I'm your guest, and guess what? I get to talk, right? So
Yeah.
what happens
Martin,
is,
just quit giving us insight and let me follow my damn plan for, please.
no,
I'm a type
you can
A control
crunch your
freak.
plan, throw it in the trash. Here's the thing, like an adult, they want to play golf. I see this all the time. My trainer just got back from the gym. He goes, "Oh, my buddies are playing golf now," and this guy's very very mechanically minded guy, and I guarantee you he's going to go struggle at first, and he'll be an adult. He'll try to fix things. He won't play, like he won't hit 10 balls with the face closed to see where the ball goes. He won't hit 10 balls with the face wide open to see where the ball goes. He won't hit 10 balls going to the top with his wrist like this. He won't hit 10 balls with his wrist like that. Closed or just all the varieties of things that might produce an outcome. Then you distill down, hey, this is sort of my rhythm, my tempo. I can make the golf ball go kind of where I want it to with this little mashup of feels that works for me to take personal ownership of, because that's how great little juniors develop. It's not some coach like with a thumb drive sticking it in the rear. Sorry. We build confidence. We build little ladies and gentlemen. We build, explain things a little bit, provide clarity, but we don't hit one shot for a great player or a developing player. We just try to provide an environment where they have some fun. And, circling back to the training aid bit, back to the adults, is that what we do now is say, okay, I know an adult, if they're a geek, perfect. They're going to buy a training aid. Maybe they'll never watch one of our, what we call our protocol videos, meaning the smart ball, for example. I mean, put it between your arms and hit some pitch shots, see if you can do it. But there's other things you can do with that. And then there's some more complicated training aids in our line that you need to kind of follow the directions, because we address, hey, this is sensations you should be aware of. Here's a little 5-ball set of protocols you should be able to do. If you can't, don't go past this step. Stay at this step. Once you can do this, progress to step 2. Now, you two dudes throw that out the window and you go right to the end and try to rip it. That's most people. But, typically
big.
most adults should have some sort of like, here's a little program. When you go practice, do this program. Like set your clock. Give me half an hour of this program. Trust me, you'll develop. You will, because it's like a step by step. Most people don't know what to do when they go to a driving range. They have this sack of clubs on their shoulder, this basket of balls. They go out there, they look around, they're like, okay, I guess I should whack a pitching wedge. Where'd that go? Oh, okay. They keep my head down, whack another one. Oh boy, I'm hot today. You know what I mean? And it's, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Swatting
It's okay.
flies.
We understand. You're talking specifically about Adam right now. We get it.
Well,
but you're defining him.
You did some snooping on me, and I checked out Adam from
You mean those 5 flush balls in the driving range don't translate to the course? Like
Yeah,
I got the good feeling, on the driving range.
Yeah, no, it helps. It helps.
Yeah, I do want to pull it into a little bit of an instruction segment for a second.
Yeah.
So you mentioned yourself. So you had golf pedigree coming up, but what was the transition from like you're trying to be a competitive golfer to now I'm going into the instruction side?
I was in that kind of place where a lot of people find themselves. Like I was 25. I played a few years after college, had my Canadian Tour card, and then I was still ready to play. Like I was working on my game. I was going to go back and play the Canadian Tour again. I was living in Palm Desert at the time, Palm Desert, California, and I had a weird opportunity present itself to me. That the developer of a very nice golf club in Palm Desert asked me, like it was a weird situation. I see this like director of golf guy with his box walking out the office. Like he just got let go. And I was doing, winter part-time duty down there because I just needed to make a few bucks, have a place to play and practice. But I had always worked at a club. Like I grew up at a great club in Toronto called the National, and had a great lead professional guy named Ben Kern, who was an All-American at New Mexico State University, played on the PGA Tour. He was a classy guy. He ran a classy show. So it was a great course, classy operation. I grew up seeing all that. So when I went to Palm Desert and I was kind of looking for a place to hit balls and practice and things, you can't just do that. You got to kind of work there a little bit. So my buddy got introduced me to his friend who worked there, and next thing you know, I'm on for a few days a week, and I'm playing my mini tour events. And the days I was there, I mean, I was having a good time with members, playing with members, doing some shop time. I'd had a lot of experience in the golf business, growing up in it. And so the guy saw that I wasn't afraid to talk and communicate and have fun and help golfers. And it's not rocket science being a club pro. It's a service-minded business. Like, take care of people and they have a good time and they like you. It's shocking. Anyway, so the guy sits me down and goes, "Hey, this is a bit of a flyer here, but we'd like you to be our next lead professional, director of golf, head pro, whatever you want to call it." And I was like stunned because I hadn't even turned 26 yet. And that's not something that happened at that age, at that time, at a place like that. And so I'm like scratching my head, called a couple of my mentors up and asked them. And they're like, "Well, Pards," my one boss, he's a famous PGA guy from Bill Eschenbrenner's his name. He's from El Paso, Texas. He's like, "Well, Pards, you're not making much money out there playing pro golf. That's a hell of an opportunity. I'd take it." And I called my dad, naturally, my uncle, and we just had a chit chat. And so, I accepted the job. I mean, it was, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I did and I didn't. But I didn't know I'll tell you what I didn't know. I didn't know how important a 24 handicap was to a lady. Zero, I had no idea. No idea. Like, to me, handicap didn't matter because all my life I was just played for gross. I didn't play for net ever. I just put the tee in the ground and go play and compete. Whatever you shoot, you shoot. And there's no, net 5, net 4. But the reality is,
I'm the exact opposite.
There you go. I feel you, dude. Now I get it. Now I'm that guy. But my point is, like, I didn't understand that part. So the culture of golf, I had the service down. I knew how an operation worked, but I didn't really understand just how important shooting 95 was to this sweet, tiny little old lady that just loved golf and played in the ladies' league and the 9-holer and was on the board and had her little birdie pins and had a little birdie juice when she made a birdie once a year. And you know what I mean? It was just, yeah. So it was interesting. So that was my start in being a club pro. And I was a club pro 16 years before, things kind of went down the way of inventions for me that had some success. And then my wife, Stacy, she's like, "You know what? You're a teacher. Let's just find a place. Let's start a golf school." And there I am, boom, 15 years later now. And so I'm an overnight teaching success. I started when I was 16, 40 years ago. So yeah, I've been doing it a while.
That's awesome. So was there ever a time when you were wanting to consider dabbling more on the professional side of instruction before committing fully onto the amateur side?
You mean teaching tour players?
Yeah.
No. I mean, so I've had some great relationships with tour players. Nick Taylor was a guy that, was a great player when he came to me, but he was struggling as a mini tour player, and we worked together for 2.5, 3 years. Saw him through a win on the PGA Tour. That was awesome. But I knew really, like, to be honest with you, I had young family. So, leave on a Sunday, come home on a Thursday or Friday, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, my point is, I mentor a lot of golf young pros, and anybody basically calls me, and I basically say, hey, choose your course and stick with it, and don't deviate. Like, just choose your line. If you like what you do, you'll be fine, and good things will happen. And go on to chase different things, like being a tour coach and following the tour. Like you said, Mark Blackburn, he's a lovely guy. Sean Foley managed to raise a couple kids with a lovely wife in Florida, and travel. And he's been on the road. I mean, that's magic. That's a better accomplishment than helping anybody win a tour event. To keep a marriage together, keep the family happy while you're on the road. Now I know that's how you make your living, but still, it's like tucking the kids in is a big deal. Raising the kids, being at their games, that kind of thing. Those guys had to sacrifice a lot to do that, and luckily, I realized that it's like you can have a great career teaching and sleep in your bed most nights. That said, I'm about to go on the road for the summer, but my kids are older now, and they still like me, which is great, and have a lot of interest in what Dad does and stuff. But now that they're older, they have their own hobbies and things, and so they sometimes come with me on my different like summer camp opportunities if it's a cool location they want to go to. But Yeah, so to that point, no, teaching tour players was never my goal. I've taught a handful of them and had a great time doing it. And they're great dudes. And if I can help them, I do. And sometimes their coaches will call me and just we'll have a chat because I know most of the guys. And they'll say, hey, just a thought. I'm looking at so and so. What do you think? And it's not like they're calling me because I'm going to have the right answer. They're just calling me to see if what they're doing is kind of in line with what another thoughtful coach might do. And so I get that call once in a while. I go, yeah, I can see that. And here's where these are feels good players have expressed. And the thing about it too, I think some guy that's never played high level golf can be a very good coach. But I think that, to coach a high level player, you kind of got to have felt what that guy's felt or girl. I'm sorry. Like you gotta know that sensation of standing there with people watching you and, the kind of, the tournament's in your hands and you've got this shot to make. Because if you don't, it's hard to express. You can be all the technical guy you want, but ultimately it's about your personal survival out there. You're going to war and nobody's going to die, but you sure feel like you're going to die sometimes. So you have to have your way to trust yourself, to have a ball respond and kind of do what it needs to do, and feel like when you after contact you look up and you've got something sort of going where you want it to go. And I think there's like a guy like Butch Harmon who's like the Mac Daddy of golf coaches, and there's been others, but like he's been in the fire, so he can speak to that, and I think guys respect that at a high level.
It seems like it would be so much more difficult to teach a pro rather than like a 20 handicapper, as far as like these are the best golfers in the world. And, you know, maybe it's more difficult for them to maybe buy into what you may be teaching. They know their swing better than anyone, as where like a 20 handicapper, like they're willing to do anything that you're telling them. Like whatever you tell them, like, look, I just want to get to a 15. No,
Adam, no, farthest thing from it, buddy. Sorry, man.
really.
The 20
Heck yeah.
handicap is this most
Let's
stubborn,
let's isolate
knucklehead
that
you
clip.
ever want to meet. Okay, in most
Man,
cases.
that's surprising.
So a tour player, you can tell a tour player is I don't care what shape they look like, but they are a premium athlete. They're super aware of everything they do, amazingly. So when you say to them, and they know the language of golf, right? And so they
Yeah.
kind of know where their issues are too. So they might hold you in contempt as a coach, and I appreciate that. Meaning, like I don't want some guy to tell me what's wrong with his swing. I want to look at his swing, and I want to tell the guy, hey man, this is what I see, and then I want that guy to go, gosh, yeah, you know what, you're kind of right, bro. That's kind of how I feel, and then let's talk about it. Because oftentimes when you have a really high level player, they already know what the answer is and they've felt it before in their life. Maybe it's been 5 years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago. Or maybe you are developing something different. Maybe they're recovering from some injury and there's some pattern that you have to change or whatever. But typically, a really good player, okay, they're amazing, and they might have lost something, And so in that situation, a lot of times you take them back to a historical lesson of themselves, to where they felt a certain feel, and they're like, "That's it, I remember, awesome, thanks, coach." Gone, and then they have this run of that feel that like carries them for a while. And then they're like everybody else. Gosh, where'd that feel go? I need that feel. I need a new feel. What's my feel? Okay, their swings aren't typically broken. They're very good. They're high speed athletes, massively aware of themselves. Now that 20 handicapper you're talking about, that's the challenge. You know why? Because that guy might have went and played golf with you the first time, Goldie, and you might have said, "All right, buddy, let's interlock those hands together, and just don't worry about where the ball goes, and keep your head down and give it a whack." So now everybody can play golf. Everybody can shoot 120. Not everybody can shoot 65 if they play 18 holes. But the 20 handicapper actually can be massively challenging, because that person might be amazing at programming a computer or playing saxophone. Or actually, I really like musicians, to be candid, when I teach golf. I love when I have a musician. But my point is, they don't even have a remote awareness of where their hand or their ass is in most cases. And so to teach them emotion, that's hard work. A tour player, that's easy work. Now you're nervous if you're their coach, because their lifestyle is riding on it, and their family depends on them. And there's a lot of things there. And the 20 handicapper, if he's a 20 handicap forever, it doesn't affect you. You might go take a lesson from somebody else. But as far as coaching them, they're hard to coach. You know, I'm not talking personality style, like maybe, you know, my buddy caddied for Bryson for a long, long time is Tim Tucker. And Bryson's the hardest working guy on tour. And this caddy would be out there all day, and Bryson would like lose his mind. He was so passionate about
No.
his skill, lose his mind. And right, and so he's had some coaches, Dana Dahlquist currently, Chris Como prior to that, this gentleman from NorCal, what's his name? It's escaping me. And I guarantee you, you know, that guy from NorCal, what's his name? Anyway, the single plane kind of stuff that Bryson was doing. And now he kind of doesn't do that anymore. He kind of has a more conventional look. He just rips it. But, you know, Bryson's going to do what Bryson's going to do. Believe me. Now, he just needs a soundboard, you know, of an experienced guy to kind of not let him get off the rails. And that's what a Chris Coleman and Dana Dahlquist have enough experience to know when to poke the bear a little bit, you know, and when not to poke the bear, because he's a bear. And so, you know, you got to have, and then it helps being a little bit older, right? So like there's a bit of wisdom in age that, like, I run a golf school every week and I have a flipping blast doing it. I love it. I literally love it. And I can tell my guys, like if some guy's, you know, underperforming, which, you know, I'll tell somebody right away. I'll say, hey man, for your physicality, I'll say, you know, you're 60 or whatever, you're in great shape. You're terrible. You are terrible. You should be way better. You're not paying attention to me and the coach. And they'll look at me like, how dare you say that? And I'll say, you want me to be you pay me all this money to placate you and tell you how good you are? Or do you actually really want a coach that's going to call you out and have you actually really understand and make a change so you truly can be better? Or I can be the rah club pro guy. Hey, Mr. Smith, good to see you, sir. Just smooth it out a bit. Keep your head down. And that's the problem when you're a club pro teacher. You can't piss off a member. You're fired. I can piss off whoever. They go away. You know, the beauty of it is they're like sometimes they're taken aback a bit, but then they realize that I care about them and I'm just being a true coach, not a placating fake coach. And so I think people respect the honesty. Like, you know, some people I've seen plenty of people my age and that have broken down. They played hockey, football, whatever. They got fake this and that. So they're immobile. And hey, we work with that, man, because that's the physicality that person has. You know, I gave a lesson to Seth Joyner today. You know who Seth Joyner is? Football player for Eagles. He's a stud. What a dude. He's 60 years old. He could bench press me 45 times, I guarantee you. Okay, I'm watching him hit it. I'm like, pretty good. Grip's nice. You know, he's kind of tapping it out there. And then finally, you know, and this is hysterical because I don't think I've ever done this. I'm watching him kind of cautiously swing a golf club. So I walked in. I said, Seth, give me a minute. I'm going to go get a couple of things. So I walked in my studio. I brought out an orange whip. I brought out a little 5-pound kettlebell, and I brought out a smart ball. Okay, because I said to him, I go, listen, you're very organized in how you put your hands on. All your angles are very nice. I said, your swing doesn't have enough time, meaning he was kind of short and quick. Okay, he's a big guy, and I'm like, you need to develop you need to develop some time and some swing length for your athletic genius to kind of sort things out for you to have a better outcome most of the time. And he's kind of looking at me quizzically. So I had him swing the orange whip, like way over swing the thing, like crazy swing length, and just kind of loosen up and open up his chest and get things swinging. I said, listen, your hands are so good and your wrist conditions are so nice. You'll be and he had a bad right shoulder, so his right shoulder couldn't really externally rotate much. That's where I got into the smart ball a bit. But I said, listen, you'll be way better off with a way longer swing, and you'll have time now to sort things out because you're a tremendous athlete. You have a great grip, and you'll figure out where the face is. You know, so he started off swinging at 95 miles an hour. Okay, that's not bad. 60 years is pretty good, but not for that beast he is, not for the physical dude he is. So I said, I'll tell you what, let's get you 10 miles an hour right now. Right? I didn't get him 10, I got him 9, and consistently 9. Just because I let him loosen up a little differently with the orange whip. And then I had this like baby kettlebell, right? 5-pounder, which is teeny weeny. And just I had him kind of swing that thing with his left arm, with his right arm. Swing it, not place it. Like feel what an arc does, the momentum of an arc and where it can take you. So his arms could get higher and he could get a little deeper stretch. And then all of a sudden it went from 94.5, 94.8, 95, you know, up to 98, up to 99. I'm like, come on, man. You know, let that backswing develop, not slow, let it get longer by momentum. And then all of a sudden it was 102. Hey, now we're talking. Come on, give me 105. And then he got a 104.9, 104.7. So, and it looked great. And he's like, "Oh man, I kind of get it now. I get it. I feel like to hit it hard, I got to be short and bursty." And I go, "That some players play that way. I don't think you need to. I think you're gonna hit it sideways playing that way. I'd rather see you feel like you're kind of way longer, way more fluid." And then he was like, "Wow, that was cool." And he walked away and we had a nice lesson. He did a great job. So that was a professional athlete, long since removed from his primary sport, who loves golf, loves to compete when he plays golf, because what are they going to play football? And then he's just looking for, why am I kind of hitting it crooked? I'm saying, well, if you're going to hit it crooked, you may as well hit it far. So like let's swing it like I don't mean to be sexist, but let's swing it like a man or swing it like a woman. You made a comment about needling me about playing Pine Valley, and I played with Megan Stasi for 2 days. Okay, do you know who that is? Megan Stasi? She's
Mhm.
a captain of the Curtis Cup, two-time captain. She's a flippin' delightful gal. Her husband Dan's an old friend of mine. Anyway, we played the same tee. There's no ladies' tee at Pine Valley. She's one of a few female members. It is a amazing place. Old school, service is top notch. Got to take a caddy. No hats in the coat and tie in the dining room. The guys all the members were like fabulous. And so it was a fantastic experience. But the point is, so here's this gal who's just like, I don't know, she's younger than me. She's in her 40s, and she can smoke it out there, man. Like she just nice big swing, languid flusher, beautiful player. So anyway, I got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, good fun.
Well, there's about 10 things I want to follow up on, but now that we're on Pine Valley, I do have to ask. So
Yeah,
we love ranking things. Sometimes we poke fun at it, because I
yeah,
was even going to ask, even on the golf coach ranking thing, of the process of, like, ranking a golf course. I kind of understand. Like, they got these raters that come out,
yeah.
and they got their spreadsheets and this, but like for ranking coaches, that seems it seems a little subjective. But we've gone past that. But for Pine Valley, it's pretty much known as number one course in America based on whatever, almost every publication, top 3, 5 course in the world.
Right.
For you, playing some signature top world class courses, is it really at that level? Is all it's cracked up to be?
Oh yeah. Oh for sure. Now you got
Is it as
here's a
hard as everyone
oh
says?
it's like it's so hard, but it's beautiful. I mean, like here's the
Yeah,
thing. I'm upset with myself because I'm like it's not that hard. There's the green, hit it on the green. Don't miss the green. Whoop
yeah,
de doo. But I'm at a stage in my golf life, I don't play that much anymore. So I miss greens. When you miss a green in Pine Valley,
yeah.
it's an
You're done.
adventure. It's an adventure, let me tell you. Here's the thing, like it's right there. I mean, I got to play it twice. So, kind of giving you it's, first hole, I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing, but, there it is, little dogleg right. You don't even need a driver. Threw it down there. I hit it in a bunker. I've got a simple fairway bunker shot. Missed the green a little bit. I got a crazy pitch to a smoking fast green, bogey. Second hole, the famous hole, fairly wide open fairway. Okay, ho hum. But now the thing about it, the interesting thing is, now hitting the second shot, all you're looking at is a stacked sod of crazy bunkers that's probably 40 yards high. Okay, and then I think I had a buck maybe 55 or 60 into the wind. Okay, a pretty stiff one. So it's like a punchy 6 iron up this hill. I'm like going, wow, I'm pretty impressed with myself. That was a nice shot. I get up there, I'm 20 feet behind the pin, and it's back to front, and I give it a little tap, thinking, oh, that's not too bad, and it rolls by like 12 feet, bogey. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those courses where you got to keep it below the hole in certain spots. There's more room in certain areas. You don't know it's there until you actually see it. Even as such an awesome host Megan was, she's like, oh, there's way more room to the left than you see, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you don't know that until you've walked it. Like, you got to have that trust factor, right? Like, I'm no robot hitting golf balls. And, it's just, but yeah, I'll tell you what, I grew up on a golf course called the National in Toronto. And to me, it's still my number one. It was the number one in Canada forever. It was in the top 100 in the world forever. And they don't even care about the ratings. It's a more of a traditional parkland, up and down, bent grass fairways, bent grass greens, ravine
Mm.
running through it, a couple of ponds, a few different styles of trees, and flipping glorious, right? Um, when you go to Pine Valley, it's what it is. It's pines, and it's up and down. The greens are spectacular. and you got to kind of get the ball in the right spot. They give you plenty of room off the tee, and here's the thing: like if you are easily distracted, Pine Valley will eat your lunch because the corridor to play in is fine, but then they have these blown out waste bunkers everywhere, you know. And the thing here's the thing that's amazing about Pine Valley. The course is amazing. Okay, there's no ocean, you know, like abandoned dunes. I mean, ocean's pretty cool, right? But here's this amazing course. You'll never see a more dialed staff, and like, in the practice facility is the best that maybe I've ever seen. I haven't hit balls at Augusta, but it is the experience and the course. I can see why it's number one. You know, that's where I'll leave it. A style of golf
Dang.
course, there's a lot of different styles of golf course that somebody may prefer more than, say, a Pine Valley. You know, a traditional parkland, tree lined, Eugene Country Club, you know, Sahali, those West Coast gems, San Francisco Golf Club. I played Cypress. Cypress blew my mind. It's the best 17-hole golf course in the world. It's, you know, and if it had an 18th hole, it'd be the best golf course in the world. But the 18th hole is a disappointing little dogleg right up a hill, which was 3-iron sand wedge. Like, what? I just played this crazy good golf course, and I just hit 3-iron sand wedge on the 18th hole. Like, come on.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
love
mean?
that.
that's There's as Adam is our historian, he'd probably educate us that a lot of these great holes, to get the proper routing and the best holes, you sacrifice the 18th hole, just gets you back to the clubhouse. Sorry to steal your thunder,
Well,
Adam, but I
I
know
mean,
that's what you
Adam,
wanted to say.
have you played it?
We've not played
But
Cypress.
no.
Okay, well,
No.
there's a rock thing, a rock outcropping in the ocean. Like, so there's the
Yeah.
tee that you play from, right? Well, when you look out in the ocean, 60 yards back, or maybe more, I don't know. I only played there once. There's a volcano rock thing sticking out. Well, I guess the intent was to create this little man bridge and have a tee out there and walk back there, and then you have to rip a driver. And that would have been epic. That would have been
Mhm.
treacherous, you know, with, you know, winter storms and things. And oh, we lost a couple members this month, you know, walking out to the 18th tee. But
But
yeah, but
it
that
would
would have been.
solidify them as the 18th best holes in America. So, no, that's pretty epic stuff right there. Back on the instruction for a
Yeah.
second. So I want to publicly shame myself that I'm the worst, right? I avoided instruction for a significant part of my golfing life. I
Hmm.
wore it as a badge of honor because I was naturally a pretty good golfer, but I didn't care about it that much. I played in high school. My
Cool.
buddies are on. They're at the. They live at the country club. They got the access to the facilities. I would play basketball. Adam and I played basketball, believe it or not. And he would go off and play baseball, and then I would go roll into golf season, touch my clubs for a couple months. But regardless, I didn't love the game. And then when I got out of grad school and I moved to an area that was like golf, 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 all in this kind of military installation. So there's a big part of that. And I got into the game and I got obsessed. So 16 years
Hmm.
ago, just everything I didn't like growing up about it. I love putting, I love chipping, I love learning, but I just love grinding. I love digging out of the dirt. I would get knowledge from people. I just never had formal instruction. But one of the things that turned me off as I became more knowledgeable in my type A self of, I did see a lot of this kind of like template instruction versus kind of like what I would consider tailored instruction. You've mentioned a lot of how you work with an individual, but you've talked about the club pro, right? Of like, I just see it of, hey, someone's going to come get their 5 lesson package, and I see the same thing said to the same people, and it always kind of just like turned me off. Now, granted, I got to a point in my own personal game to where I started competing on the amateur level, mid ams, things like that. And I really kind of got capped. I got to, this isn't an Andrew pod, so I'll get off the stage quick, but I got up to like for a full year. I played off almost a +3. And for
That's
me,
awesome.
it was awesome. And I had some good successes in amateur competitions, but it was really predicated on insane levels of short game. I just was putting lights out and wedging it from everywhere. But I had some pretty glaring flaws in my full swing game. And then the reason why I was taking a note earlier, and I cut you off, but I'm coming back to it, is I had the back-to-back wrist injury,
Mm.
and it changed like my ability, like everything that I could get away with, I just couldn't when I got back. So I'm basically 22 and 23 were a wash. So at the end of 23, when I was basically quote fully healthy, I went and saw Andrew Rice, and that was my
Hmm.
first actual lesson of my life as at the time, whatever, a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
And it like changed everything for me. Now, granted, in 24, I played some of the worst golf for the first 9 months of the year because I was committed to the plan that, we developed, and really getting the sizzle and getting back. I had to change some things. And because of that, I had to do things quite differently, especially in the iron game. But it still went back to me. So now I'm on this other side of it where I'm talking to people like my buddy Adam here, who's he's the 8 to 10 handicapper playing twice a month. And I'm the guy playing, multiple times a week of, hey, like, I don't want to throw shade at the instruction community, but also like, man, there's tiers to this thing. Like we had the guys from Cool Clubs on a couple weeks ago talking about the club fitting side of this. And that's kind of what he was saying too. Like there's experience tiers that you get. And I guess part of it is expectation management, but I do struggle with like again, I keep calling it that template instruction base of like going to see just the Joe Blow club pro. Not that I'm anti-club pro, don't need them
Sure.
coming after me, versus seeing someone like yourself or at a particular tier where it's like, hey, if you're going to go spend a few $100 and a couple hours, go get it with somebody that really has seen tens of thousands of swings and has seen hundreds of thousands of those executed and can identify things for you to work on. And kind of something Andrew told me, like, there's not a panacea. Like, you are the golfer you are. We are going to address certain fundamental things, and this is the plan to work on it over a period of time. And if there's something else that you go on from there, that's kind of your own choice. So I guess it's a loaded statement of not necessarily a question of, but just your thoughts on, why am I such an idiot for, avoiding instruction for so long? Cause now it's the hardest part now is it's like, man, did I not hit an iron properly for my entire life? And now there's a completely different consistency, compression, and flight. But you just, again, for me, I love the grind and I love learning, but also I get frustrated at myself of like, well, I probably could have removed some ego and got out of my own way a little earlier. So as I'm talking to other folks or other folks listen to this, like, what is that path they should be looking at to really improve as a golfer?
I respect the fact that you, quote, dug it out of the dirt. And I remember this one fella came to me, and he was a member of mine at that club in Palm Desert years ago, and he said, I've never taken a lesson. And then I thought to myself, and I've heard Bubba Watson say that too. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I happen to know the two coaches that Bubba spent time around for his high school coach and his college coach. And they're very wise golfer guys, okay? So you may have never paid for a lesson, but you took lessons. Trust me. And here's the thing, like you spent time with Andrew Rice, who's a dear friend of mine. He's an exceptional golf coach. Lessons are different. Sessions are something you pay for. Lessons are what the student takes away, not what the teacher tries to tell you. Okay, so like you pay for an hour session. Great. What did you pull from that hour session? Hopefully you're educated about a few things. Maybe you took 10 lessons out of that session. And so that's the thing. In your case, okay, you developed your game, which I think is great because it's you and you're living in your head with your feels. Now you get introduced some other way to do this. Guess what? You don't have ownership over that. And so now you've got to put in the time to develop the ownership into that. Now to your point about the young guy in the golf shop who wants to teach golf and maybe he can shoot par or better or whatever. He played some college golf or high school golf. Good for him. He's a good golfer. But you look at it and you got to be sympathetic to the person in front of you. What are they capable of? Tell you one story. George Knudsen, got a picture of him on my wall right here. My mentor, my primary coach, and he had a private range. That's where I started teaching when I was 16. And there was a guy named Roman there. I couldn't know Roman's last name. It had he needed to buy a couple vowels. He was one of those Polish dudes. Anyway, lots of Z's and W's and J's in there. And I said to George, I go, why does Roman swing like that, George? Like, he hits it really good, but look at that swing. Like, it was goofy. And he goes to me, hey, come here, watch. He goes, look. I'm like, what? He goes, watch Roman walk. And so Roman had this, funny little, interesting little shuffly thing. It wasn't like a proud, gallant walk, like Rory after he bombs a T-ball. It was this weird looking, and so he goes, Roman's actually exceptional. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, look at the impact. I mean, he hits it great. And this is George Knudsen, had a beautiful golf swing, but he was also like this athlete. And Roman wasn't. Like Roman was this business guy, he had this, broken down body, but yet got the club on the ball beautifully. So you have to be careful with those guys because in your situation, you had some injury, you went and saw, a really wise pro in Andrew Rice, but the guy in the golf shop may not know how to deal. He might just try to teach Roman how to be a normal, like a Adam Scott looking guy. You know what I'm saying? And that is the last thing a guy like Roman needs. Whereas in your situation, I guarantee you, Andrew looked at you and said, okay, what refinements can we make with how this club's getting on the ball? And then, whatever your physicality is, you have some wrist issues, he's going to ask you about that. And then next thing you know, he's going to put in what he feels you're capable of and, issue you some mild challenge and then have some way to have a correspondence. If you have a question, you can get back to him. So in my coaching, all my students can get back to me because I create an online training space for them where all their conversations that we have while I'm in front of you during the session, among many lessons, it's recorded. And if a student wants to, they can watch their own little golf mini series after they're done with a golf school from me because I have like 40 videos of either me talking to them or one of my coaches having a conversation with them. So, anyway, long-winded story, but I don't mind the way you dig in and out of the dirt. And now you're trying to add a little technique to it. Good. Make it your own.
No, that's man. There's some sound bites in there that I'm gonna have to play on a loop. Maybe just give myself some added motivation as you go through the throes of it as a golfer, season to
Sure.
season. So is
Goldie
there
just went through therapy.
yeah, no, that was
Very
my therapy.
therapeutic.
But that's what's so fun. I will say this: the guys that really and the gals that are high end teachers that know their stuff, man, they are articulate and they can figure out a way to connect, like something with Andrew again, not to talk about Andrew, this whole pod about
Please
Andrew
do.
Rice.
He's awesome.
I let him know I was hyper analytical and I knew his background and like in the data side and engineering side. And when I said that, he let me have it because he was challenging me. I could tell throughout our time together. I was there for a few hours and it got deep, like where my brain had to be turned on, but it was also stimulating for me. But I think a great coach is going to be able to do some of that kind of like on the fly psychological assessment of the type of personality that they're dealing with too, to help tailor that. And that's kind of definitely the same vibe I'm getting from you. So it's not shocking, but with all that fun talk, let's go to a chat GPT level question that we got from a listener here real quick of
Yeah.
what is the number one thing you see amateurs do or don't do that drives you nuts in your lessons? You've talked about grip. Is it the grip issue or is it what's the number one thing?
Easy. They'll hit a shot. They'll keep their hands in the club. They'll reach for another ball and they'll hit another shot.
Ooh,
And so I'll
yeah.
say to them, and one, when I'm coaching them, they don't, and I'll say to them on the golf course, you hit a shot. Do you get to reach for another ball on the golf course and hit another one? And they say, well, no. I go, well, good. Of course not. So I say, when you hit a shot, that's when you go ahead and holster the golf club, meaning the club is going to go around you and then rebound and then let your hands come off it and twirl it if you want to. I teach all my students how to twirl the club like Tiger Woods because I want them to twirl the golf club when they hit a good shot, to have the expectation of this impact, how the club slows down in style in a finish, rebounds. I don't want them to hold their finish. They might hurt themselves. Let the club rebound. Let it come back in front of you like Nick Price, and then let it, and George Knudsen, and let the club just kind of fall into your hands. So you're always rebuilding a grip. Whereas the newbies will, stand there, whack one, drag one, whack it, drag it. I'm like, whoa. And then as I'm coaching them, I feel like I'm Neo, you know what I mean, trying to avoid like the Matrix bullets because it's like they don't realize what they're up to. And then I'll say to them, hey, listen, I don't care if you miss, okay? Now you do, okay? You deserve to miss. You're not very good. That's okay. But a golf swing is a starting form to a finishing form, meaning we take great care to set ourselves up to kind of orient ourselves to maybe this energy can make a ball go where we want it to go. Cool. Now, the outcome may be good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is. Now, that doesn't preclude the sense of letting it go around you and finishing that because there's a moment to learn there, whether it's a heel hit, toe hit, skinny one, fat one, whatever. Don't just disregard it right away and go for another golf ball. What did you feel? What can you learn? There's a residue from that moment. Take advantage of it, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So it's not just, whap, 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 like you're a good player. Like Hal Sutton has a podcast. I was on a few years ago. He's great. And we have some mutual friends. And then I asked him some questions. I said, what would you have done differently? He goes, I definitely wouldn't have hit as many balls as I did. He goes, I probably would have made more thoughtful swings, probably chipped and putted more. He goes, I probably would have made, more sense of, where I was going with the club, like little half air swings kind of thing, then hit a shot and evaluated it more. He goes, I just kind of hit balls because I thought that's how you do it. Then he goes, something along the lines of maybe he neglected his short game a bit because there was a time there where he was always a good hitter, but he just had a hard time, saving pars if he missed greens. And, so he looks at it differently. And I hope he's doing well. I haven't talked to him in a while, but, he was certainly an influence when I grew up in the 80s when he came out of college, and how nicely he played for a while, and,
Yeah.
fell
Be
off
the
and got,
club today.
that's right. That was awesome. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep trying to do these rapid fires here. So the
Yeah.
full swing instruction versus rest of the game. Another listener question. I mean, that was the full question. So we got some ones really putting a lot of effort into giving us the full context there. But reading between the lines, do most people come see you looking? Is it just full swing, full swing, full swing? I've seen your camps. By the way, if you're not following, go follow him, Martin, on Instagram. He's posting stories of these camps throughout the week, and it's actually some of the most entertaining golf content that I've seen. I mean, you guys are doing wild ass stuff. Looks like you're doing a lot of short game stuff too, from what I can see.
Well, like those
Uh,
things that I post that's a silly game we play, but yeah, no, I post that game.
yeah, yeah, it's fun. But so I guess if someone's coming to see you for individualized lessons or a suite of
Hmm.
lessons or part of the camp, is everyone's default to full swing instruction versus how much are you getting into the full bag of the game, short game, wedges,
Oh,
finessing,
we
putting?
get into it all. We get into it all. I mean, a full swing kind of, George Newton used to say, that a full rip has some certainty in it, meaning that, when you swing a club hard and full, it creates a radius that's, you can learn from that. And so you kind of break it down. There's the fullish, to full rip swings that kind of create their own circle. And then there's the, acquired distance of, 10, 20, 30, 60, 80 yards that aren't full rips. And you got to kind of create your own radius because centrifugal force really isn't doing it for you. So a lot of people don't know how to do that. They know how to kind of create a full rip and kind of make it go, but then they don't know how to hit these little shots that are 20, 30, 40, 50 yards, and you got to manufacture the radius and let a ball get in the way, and because that's the art, right? The art is in that. I mean, well, there's art in the bombing it too, but I mean,
I know.
all the little nuggets of chipping, pitching, acquired distances versus your full, your full motion. We teach a ton of that. Yeah.
So there's a lot that came from like what I would consider like philosophy based questions. So kind of bucketize some of these. So the first one, should I get good with one club around the greens or develop shots with multiple clubs? This seems to be a debated topic of,
Hmm.
should I just be the expert with my sand wedge, my lob wedge, my whatever, or should I be practicing with a bunch of different clubs around the green? And it seems to be pretty split on this. What's the Martin Chuck philosophy?
I would say, as a developing golfer, use multiple clubs because contact's easier and you'll have better outcomes pretty quick. Once you get to where you're pretty decent at the game, and I mean you can shoot in the 80s, then you're going to see a guy get really, or a gal get really good with one club. Whether it's like, because you're not going to see a tour pro chip with an 8 iron. I'm sorry, you're not. I mean, rarely. Maybe in British Open you might when the greens are really slow, but typically they can drive it with their lob wedge. They can hit it soft with their lob wedge. They can hit little running hooks with their lob wedge. They hit soft cutters with their lob wedge. So the better players typically have one club. I'd say 80% of the time it's their lob wedge, and then the other 20% they're going to be between maybe their gap wedge and their sand wedge. Sand wedge on longer bunker shots, not even sand shots, the greenside ones, and then the gap maybe for like a pitch to a pin that's in the back kind of thing. But they're rarely going to pull out an 8 or 9 iron to chip with. Now, a newbie golfer, you teach them an 8 or 9 iron chip because that face can hit the equator, just below the equator a little easier. And so the ball
Hmm.
can respond. They can feel more confidence rather than have to have the precision to get that lofted club to kind of engage lower on the golf ball. So that's what I would tell you. I'd say newer golfers start off with a couple options. As you get better, you got to learn how to kind of be the maestro with one wedge.
Any instruction on using a hybrid from like 50 yards off the green? Because I kind of
A-
like to do that sometimes.
Adam is
Yeah.
we have a preponderance of video footage of Adam for some reason hitting excellent hybrids from 50 yards off the green. So I'm not surprised that question came up.
Well, that means he has zero confidence in his pitching technique. That's what that means.
We
You,
that's
you
hell
nailed
yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, that is true. But
And I tell we have
we're
a
always
hierarchy. The hierarchy for my golf campers is simply this: putt when you can putt. When you can't putt, chip. When you can't chip, pitch. When you can't pitch, flop. So you never want to flop it unless you can't pitch it. You never want to pitch it if you can't chip it. If you can't chip it, you know what I mean. So it's like
yeah.
hit the equator every time you can. No, not from 50 yards out, buddy. Sorry.
So, it's I wanted to stay on this philosophy realm, but you said flop, and I did get one, and I do we do have a very avid follower, so I want to give her a shout out here, at least get her question in. But she asks, "How do I hit a great flop shot?" And it's like it's kind of hard, probably to just just hey, give me instruction of how I should hit this shot. But is there any obvious tips to where okay, we're short sighted?
Yeah.
We're going over a bunker. The lie is pretty good. I want to be able to hit this shot. Is there anything technique
Yeah.
wise
So
that
I would say this: like the lie's pretty good. All right. Is it the ball sitting on closely mown turf? Pretty good lie, or is it kind of in a light rough? Pretty good. Which one is it?
well, I guess that would change the answer, wouldn't it? Let's
Yeah.
say it's this one's. Let's say it's let's tightly mown
Yeah, so
grass.
that one gives them the heebie-jeebies because the ball's sitting,
Mhm.
there's not
But
much
you can.
room between the bottom of the ball and then
Mhm.
the actual dirt, right? So you got a little
You
cushy
see a
stuff
little
there.
leading edge.
Yeah, so basically how you're going to play that shot is the ball's going to be very forward in your stance. Your stance is going to be about as, I would say, oh, maybe hip width, not much wider. Wouldn't be as wide as a bunker shot. The ball is going to be forward, the handle is going to be back, which will basically be quote opening the face a bit. If the handle's back and the face is square,
Mhm.
you've kind of rotated it. So you've added loft. You're in a deflection period moment there. But here's the thing: you've also made the bottom of the club a bit more skippy, and you kind of need that. So you're going to have this, I would say, kind of steep, thumpy event. That's where people go wrong. They try to kind of shovel it up in the air from a shallow attack angle rather than having the ball forward, getting the club vertical and up so that you can kind of trust that you can kind of thump a little bit right at the ball, right into the ground. And you'll get a bit of a skid if you set the club up properly. You won't necessarily take a divot. And then the ball
Mhm.
should deflect right up the face. Now it's the hardest shot, and it's some people are amazing at judging it, like obviously Phil Mickelson was an expert, but most every pro is pretty good at it, but they'll also mishit it once in a while. That's why it's the last shot in the hierarchy of choice. Now, to your friend that wants to learn how to do that, I would say, hey, listen, get the ball forward, get the handle more mid body, so the handle's going to feel like it's laid back a bit. Make sure the grooves are pretty square, so the face is technically open with the handle where it is. And then just get used to kind of steeply thumping that sole, that bouncy thing into the ground, and see if you can get some reaction where you can feel like that compression of the turf right at the ball where you can skid the ball up the face. And then the sense of how the shape of that will be very rotary left, like the exit of like the swing will feel very like your body rotates and the club exits left while the ball deflects up and more forward. So those are feels. Now it's obviously easier to demonstrate that and show somebody so they kind of see that deflection, that vertical shot with the exit of the club being
Mhm.
more circular. And then if it's nesty, if the ball's sitting in the grass, and then you got way more room to mess around with it, and it's to me an easier shot to pull off. Hit it a couple inches fat, and let it deflect
There's
up in the air and let it land with a steep landing angle. It shouldn't roll very far.
I feel like ball position is the thing I've just noted as most people mess up just on any delicate shot around the green. It's people default to freaking out to wanting to make ball contact, and that ball just creeps further and further back with a square face, shallow delivery. Um, And yeah, that's one thing I would say on my golf gift side. I don't think I have a lot, but that's one thing that that feels never been odd for me. So these
Hmm.
shots, everyone's like, oh, that's a high difficulty shot. It's like, well, I don't know that, but then I observe and I'm like, well, you're playing the ball, you're trying to do that. The ball's off your back foot. You got a lot of shaft lean, even if they do have it middle of the stance. And I'm like, well, that's just setting you up for not being able to hit that shot. And then they're flipping at it. But who am I? I'm just, Adam, I'm just talking to Adam right now because these are the things I've been trying to tell him. We did go to Bandon Dunes a couple times and I'm working. I was like, hey, we're going to find some hard pan at the local course and we're going to learn how to nip this ball. And you're going to go out to Bandon and it's going to be a joke compared to hitting off of this. And, but
Right.
he improved.
That
He's
Good.
still
ground is
decent.
so firm out there. It's just so
Yeah.
different than anything that we
I
get
was,
here in Georgia.
I was
Like you
still
just
using
Yeah.
my 60 out there. All the caddies are like, you don't want your 60 here. I was like, no, I'm good. Give me the 60.
You
I'm
know
fine.
what? I know. It's like I said to the caddy, like I've been out there probably 10 times. And caddies, half of them are
Oh,
just trying to
it's the
walk off
best.
their hangover. And so it's like,
Yeah,
listen,
we got
buddy,
some takes on banding caddies. Don't worry.
I'm gonna tip you well. Don't give me you know what? Don't give me any advice. I've been here 10 times. If I'm gonna
Mhm.
let me just play my game, keep up. When I ask for a club, hand it to me and tell me a joke or two and we're good. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
if somebody sucks, give them their putter every time and let them wallop it on the ground and let it bobble around. But if a guy's skilled and he misses, he's not mad. I mean, maybe he's mad, but he
Yeah.
takes responsibility for his miss. It's not like some guy who doesn't have the skill to hit the shot. You're asking him to do something he's not prepared to hit.
Yeah.
So, and I've had that before. I'm like, pal, it's okay. You know what? If I miss a shot, I'm good. It's not your fault. I'm like, give me the club. And like, I'm, very good at that spinny little nipper. So I hit it all
Yeah.
the time because I've practiced it my whole life. So I like hitting it.
So I know we're running low on time here, so I want to get this last philosophy one out. Data golf. So we've kind of gone back and forth. I'm actually Adam and I were both analysts by trade, so
Cool.
call us the nerds. But how much does that come into play with what you're doing on the instruction side versus not? And I mean, the question was data golf in or out. I find that to be an impossible thing to answer. Like the data is what it is, but
Yeah.
are you seeing any misapplications, some overstatements of it, or are we
You
all
know,
in on let's follow the data?
I think that I appreciate where it's all going, but it's still at the end of the day, it's an art. I mean, it really is. And it's if I'll give you a story. So Nick Taylor was hitting balls at the range. This is years ago, and he's off on his own. He's a nobody at this point. Nobody knows him. He's just a great amateur golfer turned pro. And I call him over, and there was a small golf camp. I think I had 9 people there. And he's like, "Hey, what's up? Hey," and he's very nice. "Hey, everybody." I'm like, "This is Nick Taylor. He plays on the Corn Ferry Tour back then. I don't know if it was Corn Ferry Tour. I can't remember." And I said, "Nick, what club do you have?" And he goes, "6 iron." I said, "Okay, Nick, hit it on the first green. The first green's like 95 yards." And he looked at me, he goes, "Do you want it to like stop on the green or just skip off the green?" So like right away, he had a club in his hand. He knows what, and because he knows stopping on that green would be really kind of tricky. I go, "No, just skip it off the green." So then he just said, "Okay," and he skipped one off there, easy peasy, right? And then the next one's a buck 35, easy again. He just a little bigger swing, ball this lower flight, skipped off the green, rolled on. Next one's about a buck 70, so he hit 6 iron a little farther than that. So that was easy for him to hit sort of a full one. So my point is, there's an art to it that you have to acquire. Data's great, okay, but there's still you've got to develop the. No data will teach you how to what the feel of the club head is at the end of the stick and how that feels in your hands and how you can change your swing attack angle, to flight the ball down a little bit. Well, I guess a launch monitor will help you with that because it'll give you objective numbers to kind of match what you're feeling. But as far as like, at the end of the round saying, okay, I hit this many fairways, hit this many greens, I drove it this far. I mean, that's all good to know. But I do tell people, I go, the data I want you to know is how far do you carry every club in your bag? Because nobody has a clue. Nobody does, except really high level players. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. They are so far off the reality of what they carry. Now, a really good player can tell you within a yard, and when they hit it, they can tell you within a couple of yards if they're actually on their number, short or long. It's shocking. Like if you're a +3, Goldie, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You look at a number and you pull a club, and you know pretty much right when you hit it, if you're telling it to bite or get up. Whereas a golfer that doesn't really have the ability to have reliable impact. They don't have a reliable ball speed. If they don't have a reliable ball speed, they're never going to hit the yardages they want. They're just kind of advancing something. They're kicking a can down the road rather than really skillfully knowing where it's going to stop.
Awesome. Well, Martin, I'll just say this: you got to save some to keep them coming back, right? So I do have a laundry list of stuff, and like I said, I could have done this full hour with you just on talking grip alone, but I do mean it, man. I know you're busy. You do amazing work in the world of golf. I love following what you're doing on social now. I certainly appreciate you spending an hour with us. The lettuce heads certainly appreciate it. We got the thumbs up from StreamYard there, so there's even StreamYard on the back end appreciates it. But yeah, man. So hopefully I find my way out to Arizona, or maybe where we're traveling. Let's do a plug for that. You say you're taking the show on the road this summer.
So in May, my first camp is I go to Grand Geneva, Wisconsin, 1 week a month from May through September. So I'm always there. It's great. It's great because we're between Milwaukee and Chicago. You know what I mean?
You're gonna play? You play any golf when you're there?
Sometimes we'll get a game on the end of the trips at a place. So we go there. So I've got Grand Geneva coming up. Then we go to Sedona, just a couple hours up the road because it's a little cooler and it's lovely. And then we go to Cabo at the end of the month, which is a great place with a guy you got to have on the show, Christopher Smith. He was the original Guinness Book world record holder of speed golf, breaking a par under 40 minutes or something back in the day. He doesn't do it now because he's 60, but hell of a golfer, great coach, fun guy to talk to about golf. So he's down there in the wintertime, so we have a great time. And then we do, every month we've got some fun camps. We go up to Canada, we go, basically where people will have me. And they're popular, they're pretty much sold out for the year, so it's pretty cool.
Well, like I said, I will have you whenever you want. So when they stop booking you out, you can always do an hour with the guys at Please Let Us Golf. But for Goldie, Adam, the lettuce heads, Martin, we certainly do appreciate it. And as always, stay plugged. Peace.